Hey everybody, welcome back to Brainiac Baseball's 1984 Detroit Tigers season replay. We have just completed the month of August, and so this video will include the end of August standings, league leaders, and we're going to take a look at all of the September call-ups for the Tigers and maybe come up with a way that we can utilize some fresh blood and re-energize our team. Now, we had a great month. We went 23-7 in the month of August. And then we lost, 4 of the last 5? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, we lost 4 of the last 5. And today's loss was just horrific. The one player we count on, pitching well, Tom Browning, did not pitch so hot. And so, we ended the month with a whimper. And now we turn the page to September. We got one more game versus the Mariners, and then it's on to the Royals. And I think we roughly have as many home games as away games the rest of the month. We are only playing the American League West during this period. These are teams that we should be beating pretty handily. The American League East is so much better than the West teams. But for whatever reason, and I think it's maybe obvious what the reason is. I say whatever reason, but I think we all know that it's just whatever the game decides that needs to happen in the final stretch here is what will happen. And so those 4 or 5 losses get us to 35 games above 500. And I feel like that .630 winning percentage is maybe where we're going to get stuck at, the rest of the season. Who's to say, but we're going to look at the standings here momentarily. I guess first and foremost, let's take a look at the September call-ups. I guess let's do that first. Then we'll take a look at the standings, see what other teams have been eliminated, and then we will look at the league leaders for the final time before the end of the year. Okay, so let's take a look at our batters. And I don't think we have a lot of AAA players that are going to benefit us here down the stretch. So what I've done is I've really only added one player, and that is Rusty Tillman. Oh, 2 players. I'm sorry. Rusty Tillman, who's going to platoon with Jim Dwyer in our DH position. And then Jeff Stone, who is a left-handed left fielder, is going to come up. And he might actually start taking some of the DH at-bats from Jim Dwyer. Because for whatever reason, Jeff Stone has a 94 power rating in this game. So he should be slugging it out of the park. And we could use a little bit of a home run power from an unusual source. His health is terrible. He's had the most at-bats ever in a season at AAA, batted .278. He's got double digits in every category, and he's got 52 stolen bases. So this guy, gosh, he should almost be in the lineup anyway, right? He got 19 doubles, 11 triples, 15 home runs, and 52 stolen bases. So he's definitely part of our future, and the future's now. And anyway, everybody else here are all schlubs that we don't really need unless someone gets injured. I like Eddie Milner. Oh, no, not Eddie Milner. I like Eddie Miller. Sorry, I got my Eddie M's mixed up. I like Eddie Miller. He's 0 for 14 on the season. We gave him a shot. He kind of tanked. Some of these guys with really low ratings will just get cut at the end of the year. I don't know if that's good or not, but we have 2 extra catchers. We can work with Rich Gedman and Jeff Datz, Mikey Pags, and Barbaro Garbe. Barbaro Garbe always gets a September call-up, so we'll work him in at some point, especially if we can clinch early. So otherwise, these are our batters. This is what we're looking at right now. Willie Wilson's tired. That's why I have him on the bench. But you're looking at the stats, and there's not one single statistical number here that really jumps out. I don't think we're going to have anyone score 100 runs. We definitely are not going to have anyone have 100 RBI. We'll have two people over 30 stolen bases with Willie Wilson and Kirk Gibson. We'll make him get there somehow, even though he was thrown out in his last attempt. I mean, we were not going to get another batter to 20 home runs. And I guess if you were going to say who is the MVP of the team so far, it's probably a really close race between Terry Kennedy and George Brett. You can sort of pick your poison there. I think Kennedy, because he was so unexpected to do well, maybe has the edge. Now, our pitching staff is different. I took most of our extra roster spots, and I made it for pitchers for a lot of reasons, primarily to try to not overwork our main arms when we don't need to. We've been lucky, and we have been good also. If you look at our ERA for our bullpen, it doesn't get much better than that group right there of 7 relievers, Hankey all the way through Rosema. Plus, we have Frank LaCourte, who's killing it. We have Jeff Montgomery, who's probably our closer of the future. And we have a new lefty, Sherman Corbett, who was an original draft pick of the Tigers. We drafted him in the very first draft in 1980 in our sim. So he's actually worked his way to the majors the hard way, going step by step on the rung. And, he hasn't been bad. So it's always good to have an extra lefty arm in the bullpen. And so he'll get a shot. And so will Montgomery and Carl Willis. I don't foresee us using Danny Jackson. And Larry Rothschild we got in the trade with Tom Browning. And I might like to use him because I like Larry Rothschild. He was a good coach for the Tigers and for the Astros, I believe. But the only other, again, this all depends on how well we do here in the final month. But David Cone, who's a AAA pitcher, has done nothing but pitch his ass off all the way through the minors. And his ratings are great. All the numbers are great. The peripherals, everything is wonderful with him. I would love to see him get a shot before next year because, if we let Jack Morris go, David Cone probably could step into that role. So I'd like to see him get 1 or 2 starts at the end of the year. I did bring Jeff Robinson back into the number 5 starter spot. And as you saw, Danny Jackson, I don't care if we use him or not. I'm kind of soured on him and his really bad walk rate. Okay, so that's our September call-ups. We're not going to go through all the teams, look at the call-ups, but on my own, I love to go through team by team, looking at the standings here, and see if any players that were September call-ups actually are on starting rosters, especially if they're a team that's already been eliminated. So, looking at the American League East, Boston is out. Boston is 3.5 games out. New York is making a little bit of a run because we have been taking it here. But I kind of think they're done, but who knows? Baltimore and Toronto are all but eliminated. Milwaukee and Cleveland have been eliminated. In the West, Oakland's lost 6 in a row. They find themselves 5 games back. Seattle, because of what they're doing to us, are only 3.5 games back, and I think they're actually the better team between California and Seattle. Minnesota is eliminated after today's ball game, and I always like to look at the eliminated team just to see if they have any hope for the future. This team doesn't. They suck. They've made a bunch of bad decisions. It looks like Eduardo Jimenez, I believe he is a Mexican League player who the game has added, and he has spent some time in single A, and they're going to give him a little look-see out there in left field. And why not? Why the hell not? And then, they're terrible. God, they're just terrible. and their pitching staff is just as bad. It is nice that they've worked in a couple of minor leaguers in getting their first real shots this year. You can just tell by the innings pitched. They've given up on Chuck Rainey, who they traded for in the 1980 season from Boston. I remember that happening. And a pitcher named Scott Ruskin. It looks like he's a September call-up that's going to get right into the short relief bullpen. They got a bunch of other arms here. Why they're putting John Martin way down here? He's so good. Actually, their bullpen is pretty damn solid. So anyway, so that's a team that's been eliminated. Texas and Kansas City will be eliminated very shortly. They have no hope. Let's take a look at the National League. The Mets have won 15 in a row. Come on. And Atlanta's lost 14 in a row. Has New York and Atlanta just been playing each other? Let's find out. No. It's just a coincidence. You have to ask yourself that question because, they're 23-6. They actually did better than we did in August. But you have to ask that question because this game is so messed up that it wouldn't be all that surprising to find New York playing 15 straight games versus Atlanta. Okay, Philadelphia is 8 back. They are dropping like a stone. They might not even finish in second place at this pace. And Chicago above 500. Pittsburgh at 500. If you look at the National League West, it's all but over. Cincinnati was eliminated today. We'll just take a look at them as well. Without the DH, there we go. Remember, we traded to get Tom Browning. We gave up Jody Reed, who is now their everyday second baseman, and he's doing a really good job. So happy for Jody Reed. And then we also gave up Jesse Barfield, who is just poop on a stick. He is terrible. He's just terrible in this game. And what they did was they gave Jesse Barfield, of all players, they gave Jesse Barfield Dave Winfield's spot, right? Wait, where is he? Kim Allen. Oh, Dave Winfield, right there. So they gave Jesse Barfield's Dave Winfield's spot, which is just lame. Oh, but Wally Joyner is a September call-up. That's interesting. And anyway, looking at the pitchers, and then we'll get right to the league leaders here. They still have some really good pitching. They have Bruce Berenyi, Mario Soto, Charlie Leibrandt, all good. Frank Pastor's getting the job done with a good ERA. And they got the big unit, Randy Johnson, that they must have called up right after the trade with Tom Browning. And, he was a draft pick. They've been pitching him a little bit every year, and I'm sure he'll be on the roster next year, right out of spring training. So, they're in a tough division, but they're not that bad of a team. Okay, let's quickly move on to the league leaders. Here we go, American League leaders. We'll do all the batting ones first. We'll mix in the fielding, and then we'll do pitching at the end. And then we'll just quickly look at the main categories for the National League. So you can see here that with Kennedy's slump that he's in currently, he is tied for second in batting average with a .328 batting average, right behind Wade Boggs. George Brett's number 6 overall, and Willie Wilson still hanging in there at 300. 16 batters, 300 or better. That seems like a lot, but, what is that? 10 batters in the 300 range, so the 300 range. So, I don't know. We're not going to finish with 16, I don't think. So, it's nice to see some Tigers in there doing what they got to do. Who's the at-bat leader? It's Paul Mauder. Willie Wilson way down there. Feel free to pause if you want to take a longer look. If you want a longer look at the logs. Doubles. This is nice to see because the Tigers never have anybody get a lot of doubles, and yet we have Brett, Kennedy, and Trammell. Wilson did the bulk of his work with Kansas City this year. Wade Boggs has 39. Tommy Herr has 38. Molitor on 2 teams has 36. And you can kind of make out the rest of it for yourself there. Jim Rice is in the minor leagues now on Boston, which is dumb. All right, grounding in the double plays. George Brett, you know he's going to be on the list. I didn't think he'd be that low, actually. Jim Rice. Extra base hits combined. Brian Harper and Daryl Sconyers, both of the California Angels, have 56. That also seems stupid. George Brett and Terry Kennedy, they're battling it out for supremacy on the team. And Gibson just a notch below them. Gibby having a great year. We could consider him for team MVP, but I don't think he matches up. He's kind of a late bloomer this year with all those home runs, which is better late than never, I guess. But, I mean, Kennedy and Brett have been doing it consistently all year. Let's take a look at the defensive fielding averages. This will be fun. It's fun for me. Terry Kennedy, 4th. It isn't always true to form that whoever leads the category gets a Gold Glove, but, you know, it's kind of true. Kennedy is having a great year for a catcher that not really known for his defense. At first base, we've used so many different first basemen this year because of the injury to Greg Brock. I don't think at some point he'll even qualify in the next month, but I could be wrong. Jim Traber, another non-defensive power hitter. Second base, Sweet Lou in the 3rd spot behind Marty Barrett and Randy Reddy. Tom Herr. Who's the worst? Vic Rodriguez with a 961. That's way below average for a second baseman. At third base, it's Steve Springer with a 958 for Cleveland. George Brett bounced back pretty good. I mean, he made an error, a really costly error today that led to a bunch of runs. But ultimately, he was way down here below the Chris Pitaro level, who's at 907. How many errors does he have? 31 freaking errors. And a defensive range of negative 11.4. So not only does he not get to balls, but when he does, he boots it. Okay. Shortstop. There's Trammell. He's got a good lead over Ernie Riles and the Wizard. I think he will definitely get the Gold Glove. Did he win a Gold Glove already in our sim? No, he could get his first. 2 All-Star games. Okay. Good. Left field, Gibson. Wow. I can't imagine Gibson getting a Gold Glove, but he might. I mean, he has been good. He's made 4 errors. And he's throwing out base runners. Steve Kemp's the worstest. There's a lot of bad fielders here. Ron Kittle, jeez. Center field, Willie Wilson, a 981. That's really not great. How many errors has he made as a Tiger? 2 in 49 games after he made 3 in 71. That's essentially the same pace, I guess. But look at the difference. So it must be easier to play defense in Royals Stadium than it is in Tiger Stadium with that huge outfield, 440 to center field. So I guess that makes sense, right? He's got such good range, but a terrible noodle arm. Okay, right field. Glenn Wilson with Mike Davis leading. And I think Davis won last year. Yep, he sure did. Back-to-back Gold Glove winner, perhaps. All right, moving on. Games played. Paul Mauldin, 138. He had that extra game being traded. Kenny Smith is on there, but we've started taking him out versus left-handers because he's batting around 180. Hits. Come on, game. Rod Allen of the White Sox has 189 hits. There's Willie Wilson, George Brett, and Gibson on the list. Trammell and Whitaker would normally be there, but they both suffered injuries this year. And that's why they're not among the leaders. Who's been hit by the pitch the most? Dante Bichette. He's only been up half a year. And he's tied with Rusty McNeely. Home runs. This is what you want to see. Kevin Mitchell has 37 home runs on the season. I think he's going to get to 40, unless the game just completely gives up on him. These are not home run names. Ron Kittle, yes. Alvin Davis, he could hit 25 to 30. Gibson, definitely capable. Dave Henderson, capable. Kenny Smith has proved that he has. Big Daddy had 52 one year. But yeah, none of these other guys are actual home run hitters, but I don't know, that kind of makes it fun, I suppose. All right, let's see here. Intentional walks. Wade Boggs has 5. Okay. On base percentage. Yeah, Kenny Smith, he was right up there, but he has really dropped. He's dropped 20 points. 19 points since the last time we saw his on-base percentage. It's hard to keep up a 400 on-base percentage in this game. The game doesn't really... it'll have its moments, but the game doesn't really walk a lot of batters in gameplay. Unless you're just an inept rating. All right. Moving on here. Outfield assists. Von Hayes, 5 tools. He's got 13. Hoskins Paul has 12. Some of these schlubs have benefited off our team. Bob Scooby is terrible. I think he's got a 60 rating out there. Yeah. And in center field, and they just... somehow he gets people out. I don't know. No Tigers on that list, of course. All right. OPS I care about. Kevin Mitchell, 929. Terry Kennedy, 875. Good job by TK. We got four batters in the top 25. Plate appearances. Dicky. All right, let's see here. RBI. Kevin Mitchell has 128 RBI. Now, have they shut him down yet? Has the game shut him down? He's had 1 RBI in the last 6 games. But he's had 20, although they're all kind of bottom stacked here. He's had 20 in 20 games. But the game will do that. It'll automatically just stop. So I don't know if he's going to end up leading in those categories. He's not going to be able to be a triple crown winner because his average is only at 302. But he could have happened. Boggs, Davis, Harper, and Pat Dodson are already over 100. Kenny Smith leads our team, but we're not going to have anybody get that close. I would have thought Kenny Smith at first, but like I said, he's just sort of died. Defensively, let's look at runners thrown out. I clicked it. There we go. Mickey Tettleton has 38 runners thrown out. Terry Kennedy has 33. Lance Parrish, who we traded away, had 6. Terry Kennedy, really great job all the way around. He gets my vote for MVP at the moment. 32%. Dennis Littlejohn with a 44.2%. He does have a 94 rating. You'd have to be a schmo to run on him. What am I looking at here? I'm just hitting buttons. Here we go. In 81, he had a 44%. Look at the defensive range and the defensive WAR. He's not a very good hitter, but man, he's a great defensive player. Okay. Runs scored. Nicky. We have an outside chance of Kirk Gibson, possibly Kenny Smith. Wilson we put at the bottom of the lineup now. Gibson and Wilson are consistently tired. And at some point, especially if we're really struggling, we're going to have to throw them out there and risk them getting injured. Instead of taking them out every time it shows us that they're tired. Sacrifice hits. There's Dougie Baker way up on Ozzy. We always have one of those guys. Sack flies. Ken Smith has 8. Boggs and Don Slaught are leading in sack flies. Slugging percentage, Kevin Mitchell by a good margin. Here we go, stolen bases. You want to see this one. Willie Wilson has 57 total. Gibby has 28. Gibby will definitely get to 30. We're going to make that happen. Even if it sacrifices the whole season. Steal success. Mike Brewer, I don't think he's even in the majors, had 100%. What was his 100%? 13 for 13. Yeah, he's in AAA. Ozzy, some good numbers there. Okay, strikeouts. Who strikes out the most? Rolando Rooms has taken the mantle from Peggle. There he is. He's way down here. Usually Peggle's way up on that list. Kenny Smith is over 100. And there's going to be a lot more over 100 before the end of the year. Let's see. Strikeout percent. Who's the bestest? Ray Smith, 4.7% by a lot. George Brett at 10.3%. We hit and run with him a lot. These are both good contact hitters. Willie Wilson and George Brett. Triples. Rolando Rooms has 8. Wilson and Brett have 5 and 4. Where's Kirk Gibson? I thought he'd be on the list. Walks. Yeah, again, because Smith has been struggling. He's lost his handle on the walk leader list. How many has he walked in the last 20 games? 8. But once in the last 9 games. So, yeah, that's what the game does. What are you going to do? Okay, let's go back and take a look at pitchers' stats, and then we'll look at the National League really quick, and we'll wrap it up. Complete games for pitchers, it is Alan Ramirez and also Mike Witt with 7. That's not very many. ERA, that's a pitcher stat. Teddy Higuera, 2.62 ERA, way better than anybody else. Will he win back-to-back Cy Young Awards? He's 14-7 with a killer ERA. Almost a strikeout per inning. He could. He's going to need to string some wins together down the stretch here. And you see the rest of the top 10. We've got nothing. We got Morris, Kelly, and Petrie all bunched up. All right, let's take a look at games pitched. Raleigh Eastwick with 57. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 Tigers. All of our bullpen members are on the list. Yeah, I don't see anybody else of note. Who's induced the most ground into double plays? Al Lakowitz and Alan Ramirez. Both have 28. No Tigers, because, of course, why would we ever get double plays? Hits per 9? Mike Witt and Mark Langston, both 7.17. Interesting. Okay, hit batters? Howard Bailey, Floyd Bannister have hit 8 batters. That's not enough. Home runs allowed. We know who's number 1 on this list. It's going to be McCall. Larry McCall has given up 49 home runs. No Tigers on this list. Although we've given up a whole bunch. We've given up 8 in 2 games in the last week. John Tudor's given up 30. I always like to look at Larry McCall. He's in AAA, so he's done for the year. He's not going to get to 50 for the 3rd straight year. Oh, man. And he's a free agent. Would anyone sign him? That'll be fun to see. All right. Moving on. Innings pitched. Floyd Bannister, 211. No Tigers on that list. Mostly due to injury and ineptitude. Innings per game. Monty Burns, 757. Jack Morris can go around 7. And, I do have a quick hook. I mean, let's be honest. I don't care about any of that. Quality starts. Dan Petrie has 15 quality starts. Floyd and Roger Slagle have 20. Saves. Tom Hankey happens to be leading combined saves from Texas and Detroit. Dave Smith, who was our closer, is actually still in 11th spot. So many closers get shuffled out of that role mid-year. That is, I would bet if we went through the top 10, very few of them would have been in the closer's role the whole year. All right, shutouts. Mike Witt has 5. Mike Chris has 4. Bert Blyleven had 2 before he went down for the year. Then we have starts. Okay, I mean, there's really no one who's on a 4-man rotation anymore, from what we can tell. I mean, Dan Petrie is the only Tiger to make every start this year, and the person in front of him is only, technically 1 start more. Strikeouts pitched. Mark Langston, 223, and it's not even close. He might be the Cy Young Award winner over Teddy. Frank Tanana, you son of a bitch. He's 3rd. Jack Morris is 133. Danny Petrie's got 109. And it's kind of weird. We don't really get that many pitchers with 100 strikeouts when you play as a Tigers GM. Strikeouts per 9. Mark Langston, he's over 9. That's kind of amazing for this era. And Jack Morris is 3rd. If he had stayed healthy, he'd be right there. Okay, we're almost done. Walks per 9. Bob Tewksbury, a half a walk per 9 innings of work. He had 13 last we saw, and he still got 13. It's kind of amazing, as he was in real life. And then wins. This will wrap it up for the American League. Mike Warren of Oakland has 17. Steve Davis of Toronto, their ace, has 16. Frank and Witt both have 16 for California. And then a bunch of people who are just not going to get there. Brian Kelly, he probably won't win another game, but he won 12 this year. That's pretty good. And Dan Petrie's first full healthy year, he's got 11. So we just did not get the pitchers to come together. Okay, let's pull back and look at the batting average, go to the National League, and this will be very quick, folks. We got Gene Richards and Tony Gwynn on San Diego. It's going to come down to those two guys. Feel free to pause and take a longer look. Let's take a look at home runs. Eric the Red, who's a Giant, has 31. And a bunch of schmoes. Not Kirby Puckett, but like their top 10 doesn't even have 20 home runs. That's kind of pathetic. I don't know why the game always does that. But it is. No, let's take that back. I'm sorry. This is not the game's fault. This is what the National League was like. With the Astrodome, with Busch Stadium. The Dodger Stadium was terrible for home runs this year. Other than the Cubby Stadium, there really wasn't, and San Francisco to some degree, those were the only two stadiums that had any pop in 1984. And remember, I set the stadium effects based on my own formula to be more accurate to what actually happened. And I think it's working, by and large. Okay, we'll look at RBI. Billy Hatcher of the Cubbies has 91. No surprise that it's Cubs and Giants in there. All right. And stolen bases. Ricky. He's got 67 for the Mets. And Eric Davis has 59. So he's power and speed in this game. And there you have it. Anybody on Houston? Wait, it would be like, it's the wrong, yeah, Joe Pittman, 22. All right. Okay, let's look at the pitching categories very quickly, and then we're done. ERA. Oh, come on. This is bullshit. I hate this game. Now I'm mad. This is a batter that they have converted to a pitcher for some dumb reason. I know he pitched in the minor leagues like one season, but he was actually a hitter. And they think he's a pitcher, and they've given him like lights out ratings. I almost want to just go into the edit player and delete him because it's so dumb. Dumb. Okay, so there's 4 Dodgers pitchers in the top 10. And Tim Belcher will win the Cy Young most likely. Although Rick Ownby and the surging Mets, I guess that's possible. He could win another Cy Young. Okay, ERA, wins, and then strikeouts and saves. Tim Belcher has 19 wins. Bob Welch has 18. Rick Ownby was 17. And Fernando Mania has 17. So, I mean, there could be a couple 20-game winners in the National League. I don't think there's going to be any in the American League. Strikeouts pitched. Fernando leading the National League with 195. J.R. Richard, he's always in there, even though he was out of baseball in 84. He has 180. And then saves, and then we're done. Lee Smith for the Cubbies has 32. That's good. An actual closer. Bob James did temporarily close at one point. Alejandro Pena was a closer. Bedrock was a closer. Of course, Franco was a closer. So yeah, this is a little bit more accurate over here. So yeah, Lee Smith is leading the National League. Okay, very cool. I guess that is all we have to show you for today. Now, just going forward, we have this final month. I've made a decision about the future of the Tigers sim here. If we do manage to win the World Series, then I will have met my goal, which was to get Tigers a World Series by the same year that they won the World Series in real life, which was 1984. If that happens, we will conclude the series, and I have something new in the works to start with next spring. Of course, we do have the 1970 Seattle Pilots what if scenario, which will start up as soon as this season starts. It is still under construction. It's working well. And we also have the 1981 Detroit Lions alternate history, which will begin in like 2 weeks, right? So stay tuned for that. That is complete and ready to go. So I will not tell you what the plan is yet. If the Tigers do not win the World Series this year, we will play one more season, because ultimately I think the game will flush out all the shitty stuff that it has built into it over a 6-year period of gameplay. And then that's where it really begins. But I will not actually, just depending upon how this all goes, I will still play this for fun on my own and continue on with this. But I think we've kind of run the course for the 1980 Tigers season replay. I think we've seen enough of it. I would like to finish on a strong note and win a World Series. And if not, we'll play one more year. And if we do, then we'll move on to something else, which I think will be equally enjoyable. So there you have it. That's the plan. Okay, we're going to come back tomorrow and start the new month of September against the Seattle Mariners. It's going to be Kelly versus Langston. Oh, that sounds bad. So until then, everyone, have a great day.